You know, when it comes to Devil May Cry, there's a lot of story, there's a lot of lore here when it comes to this world. There's a lot to it. It's more than just the memes. I am the storm that is approaching. Yeah, I think it's more than just the memes. I think there's a lot that you can enjoy. We're gonna talk about it. I watched the entire anime. However, I would like to give you a little disclaimer here, a little bit of backstory about me and my journey with Devil May Cry. It was recommended to me through stream, actually. If you don't know, I do stream live here on YouTube and on Twitch. You can click the live tab or twitch.tv/vampex13 if you ever want to join me. I might be live right now. And this was one of the games that someone basically redeemed points to get me to play, and I played Devil May Cry, and I really enjoyed it. I had a really fun time. I played Devil May Cry 3, so I started with that one. So I've only played a bit of it. I do know a little bit more about the story because I have watched some of the scenes from Devil May Cry 5, and that's pretty much my experience. Oh, and I know the lawn chair meme, of course, the lawn chair meme. But other than that, you know, I'm not as deep in this lore. So forgive my naivete if I say anything or misspeak. You guys can let me know. Feel free to share stuff with me in the comments. But yeah, also, please be kind to me because I'm just getting into this fandom, and I gotta say, I love it, so just know that. Also, just a fair warning, we're about to get into some spoiler territory. I'm gonna tell you all about the show, so if you haven't watched it yet and you wanna watch it, maybe do that before we talk. I will try to keep it a little spoiler-like because there are some pretty crazy twists in this one that I don't really want to spoil for you, so I'll save some of that, but otherwise, I am gonna be talking about a lot of, like, what happens. First of all, let's start off with a synopsis. When it comes to this show, it's basically Season 1 is the origin story season. It's getting into Dante's origin, Lady's origin, you know, doing some world building stuff. It's all of that important sort of world building, lore, and like who are these characters and what makes them important. And we get into the origin story for our villain in this, who is a bunny that, you know, is believed to be a demon that we meet in the first episode, I love the design for this character. I believe this character is original to the show, but, you know, as always, remember, I'm just starting to get into this fandom, so let me know. So that's kind of what this season is about. The idea is that the villain, this bunny, is trying to open up a gate between hell and earth and bring all the demons to earth, which is obviously bad news. And so all of our heroes end up kind of linking together and trying to stop this. And that is basically it. In the end, we find out who the bunny really is. There's a bit of a twist with that. I won't spoil that for you, but I'll just say, yeah, revelations. Things are revealed. And that's basically it. We wrap up the season and kind of set up some cool stuff for season 2. So first off, I want to start by saying this animation is crazy. It's so good. Also, the soundtrack. I was not expecting Limp Bizkit Rollin' to be added to my Spotify this year. I did not have that on my bingo card that I was gonna like be getting back into Limp Bizkit. I never thought in my life that that would be a thing that now at this time, 2025, I'm here again for Limp Bizkit. But that is what the soundtrack did to me. I mean, I think the soundtrack for this is really fun. It's really good, and it really matches the tone of the show. The animation is just unparalleled. I feel like some of these fights, some of these just emotional moments too. Like there's a lot of great facial expressions and things that they're doing with it, but also the fights are really epic. So whether we're talking on sort of a more small, more intimate scale, or whether we're talking big moments, it has great range and it does everything so well. Studio Mir is behind it. If you don't know Studio Mir, you probably actually do, because they also did Adventures with Superman, Legend of Korra, X-Men 97, so you've probably seen some of their other stuff. Contrary to popular belief, or at least to some belief, I guess some people think this isn't like a real anime studio because it's an American studio. It's actually not an American animation studio. It's Studio Mir. They're based in South Korea, and I believe they also have a head office in China. So there you go. And I think they do great work. And I also was a little unsure about my feels on the X-Men 97 stuff initially, and then they really won me over because their animation is flawless. So anytime I now see Studio Mir on something, I will be checking it out. I like the animation as well because we get this really cool episode, this musical episode that I really loved, that it's just interesting because it gave me some Arcane vibes, which I guess isn't surprising because this is Netflix. But it's kind of cool how they just did an episode that was pretty much music. I don't even think there was any spoken words in that episode, and it has a few different animation styles it goes through, and it's very emotional, and I just felt like the story was just told so well and in a way that made me feel very attached to the characters. You know, music is a really powerful thing, and I think setting episodes to music is really fascinating. I know that there was an animated film a while back someone was telling me about that doesn't have any speaking in it, and I just also feel that visuals with music can be so connecting for everyone because it's something that exists beyond language, us being able to connect to sounds and emotion. I just think it's a really cool way to do storytelling, so I love that they did that episode. Also, we got to acknowledge that everyone in this show, all the main characters that we have, are all super tragic. And I kind of loved it. I kind of love how everyone has like some sad story that led them to where they are now, whether they're on the good side or the bad side. Everyone has also clear motives, which is something that I liked. I mean, I think one of the things that they've done, they did tweak this story a little bit here. They changed some elements of story, but I would say overall, everyone still has a similar basis to my understanding for their backstory in the video games. It's just they tweak some things to basically make these characters feel a bit more grounded. I think because it's a TV show and not a video game, they wanted to make us understand these characters a little bit more and really kind of get into why they tick so that things feel a little bit less of like a caricature. Not to say that the games are that level, but sometimes, I mean, they get pretty goofy, they get pretty cheesy. So they can get to that level of being like a little bit bigger than what this show is doing with them, where it's trying to really dial into why they are the way they are in a way that we as normal folk could understand and connect with a little bit better. So it just feels a little bit grounded. I also like that it has a modern setting. I know that not everyone is going to be here for this backdrop, but I kind of really liked it because it felt like it was also just speaking a bit about like how the world is and how something like this would play out. And I think it has some interesting characters in it that I don't think are from the games, at least not my understanding. I don't think Darkcom is from the games, but unless I'm missing something, I think that it's cool that they have that here as kind of this driving force behind everything. And so I personally liked these adaptations and these little changes that they made to have it kind of fit a more modern retelling. I think it works really well, and I also just find it to be interesting. Overall, I really like this story, I gotta say. I think the story is really good and really well done, and I like that there's a lot of twists in it too. There's so many moments that I just found myself being like, wow, like what? Like I was not expecting them to go to some places. They also add a lot of depth, I think, to the world, and there's just a lot beyond just like the lore and the history of the characters. We kind of get into this idea of hell being a place where demons are, and some of them are even trapped. And so them being evil is kind of like a perception of us on Earth, because obviously they're resentful of the fact that humans are on Earth. They're resentful of the fact that they were closed off from Earth by Sparta, and that Sparta basically abandoned them, who was like one of their own. And I think there are just also demons that are just trying to survive. That's all they want. You know, hell is toxic, and it's not good even for them and for their young ones, and they want to just have a life like anyone else. So I love the idea that there's this range to the demons where, you know, some of them are like super evil, just want to destroy everything, but then there are some that just like want to live their lives, basically. I thought it was a cool lens to show this through, and it just added like a little bit more depth to what's going on here in the story. It's not so black and white. It's not so easy as like all demons are evil, which also makes sense as well when you consider obviously Dante's origin and him being, you know, part demon. Speaking of Dante, I gotta say, I really love what they're doing with Dante here. I love the characterization. I love that they made him feel real while also still like keeping the cheesy elements of him. They just basically made him a little bit less of a meme, but he still got cheesy one-lines, and I love it because I was like, if we don't have that, like how can I even enjoy this anime? And there's still lots of great one-liners in here for you. So that was important, and I think they did it justice. Also, Dante's voice I know was a concern for people because it's also the voice of Nero. Now, obviously, I haven't really played, you know, a lot of DMC, so to me, I don't hear that at all anyways because I'm just not as well versed. But I do have to say that based on my sort of just coming into the fan base now experience, I feel like this voice perfectly matches the voice that I hold in my mind from my time playing DMC3. Like, that voice that just I manifest and keep in here, which isn't obviously going to be exactly the video game. It just fits the tone so well. It fits the vibe so well of who Dante is. It's a great younger Dante, and I love it. And let's also remember that all of these characters are kind of more at their starting point or early points in their journey. So it is kind of a younger version of the characters that we know now, because we've come so far already in the Devil May Cry story at this point. I think Devil May Cry 5 was the last one. We're going to be on Devil May Cry 6. So you have to think that these characters have been through an evolution. I think that's important to keep in mind. I like the Vergil misdirect in this as well. I like that, you know, we kind of thought we were going to get Vergil from the trailer, and then we kind of did, but not in the way that we thought. They did a good job with that. I'm glad that they didn't rush to get to Vergil, because I just feel like you want to build everything first, and then you can start to bring Vergil in. And they took their time, and I think that's good. And I can't wait to see where it goes next, honestly, with next season. Of course, I didn't love everything in the show. I loved a lot of it, though. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. But I did have some things that I felt could have been done better. One was Enzo. I liked that Enzo is in this. Enzo plays, I think, a pretty prominent role in the game. It's kind of like always the guy that's calling you up to give you jobs, but you don't really see him, I don't think, in the games. And I think, I looked it up, I think he's in the novels and the manga, which there's novels and manga? Okay, cool. Should I check out the Devil May Cry manga? Let me know. So Enzo has this bond with Dante in the show that he's kind of got like a bit of like a fatherly bond, and they kind of try to build it up, and then Enzo at the end, spoiler, he dies, and they play with the emotional loss. They play with that moment of like, oh no, Enzo's like giving up his life to like save Dante, this great sacrifice. And you know, he said earlier on that he would take like, he wouldn't take a bullet for him, but maybe like a little knife, and then it's kind of a playback on that joke, and that was cute. But I just felt that emotionally I wasn't as moved by this as I could have been. I feel like they didn't build up the relationship enough throughout, and there just could have been some more impactful moments that we get between Dante and Enzo before that sacrifice, because I just feel like that moment was supposed to hit more emotionally, and for me, it just didn't. But I mean, hey, maybe it hit more for you. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. We need to talk about the elephant in the room. We need to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is Lady's character. Now, a lot of people have some thoughts on how Lady is written in this show. Some of them are very intense thoughts, to be honest with you. I personally liked Lady in the show. I thought she was cool. I thought she was just, you know, there and kicking butt, and I just love to see her be such a, like, cool, like, badass character. So that was awesome, but I understand that she's got a little bit of a different tone here. And you know, she swears, and she's kind of a bit of a soldier. So it's a little bit different than what we see from her in the games. However, I think the sassy nature to Lady, and I think this element of just like kind of seeing herself as this force, which she is a force, to be honest. I mean, I've heard about the boss fight with Lady in Devil May Cry 3 and how it's crazy, and I feel like she brings that energy to this. She's very intimidating in a really cool way, so I liked what they did with her there. However, I do know, especially I think having gone back to Devil May Cry 5 to watch some of the scenes from that with Lady to kind of get a better understanding for where the character's at now, I think her tone has maybe changed a little bit over time in the games, or perhaps it always was this way. It just feels a bit more soft in comparison to what we get in the show. So I can understand where tonally she feels a little bit different. I do think that we might be moving to where she is at in the games now. Like, it is important, like I said, to remember these are characters near the beginning of their story, but I can understand why other people have issues with it. I don't really have an issue with it, but I just wanted to bring it up here because there are other people talking about it, and kind of just to give my thoughts on that. So that's why I put it in this sort of more constructive criticism part of the video. Although, I don't know, I thought Lady was cool. I liked her, and I can't wait to see what else they do with her as her character evolves. The only thing that I do feel in terms of even Lady's origins, which we go into as well, is that like everyone's origins are tragic and also kind of similar, because they kind of changed Lady's origin, and this is kind of a nitpick that I have. I think it works what they did, so I don't necessarily think it's wrong, but it just does make everyone feel kind of similar. Now, the plus side is that it allows Lady to also connect with Dante, being like, you know, we kind of have similar vibes because we kind of have similar stories. In Lady's case, you know, she's orphaned because her dad kind of wants to get power in order to protect the people of Earth and ultimately his family. And this drive for power turns him into a monster, which causes him to take the life of his wife and, you know, leaves poor little Lady there orphaned, which is pretty sad. With Dante, it's the same origin, I believe, as the games. You know, his mom was killed. He believes his brother's also been killed. They were attacked by demons. He doesn't know he's a demon. He finds out he's part of demon and that he's related to Sparta. So all of that stuff, he's the son of Sparta. That's all there. The other thing is that we have this villain character, and even their origin, it's like a lot of orphans. There's a lot of orphans is all I'm gonna say, okay? Of course, they do acknowledge it in the show, which is pretty hilarious, but it is all very similar. But I do also love that they made a meta joke about it, basically. So those are my thoughts on the show overall. Overall, I think I would give this one... What do I want to say? I had a lot of fun with it, honestly. It was pretty fun. I'm gonna say I want to give it an 8 out of 10. I want to give it an earnest 8 out of 10. I just thought it was really well done, and the music and the animation especially just really elevated it for me. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you're a big Devil May Cry fan and like what you think, or if you are maybe this is your first Devil May Cry thing you've seen ever. I want to know what you thought as well. Let's all discuss. We can all be Devil May Cry fans together because Devil May Cry is cool. That's pretty much it for this video. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, apparently it is the season of the devil because Daredevil is happening, Devil May Cry just happened, something about devils is in the air. So if you have missed it, I've also been covering Daredevil, and if you like devils, there's another one for you. I'll see you next time, and until then, friends, stay nerdy. Bye!